Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive into some movie magic.
Okay, so we've got a ton of articles and announcements stacked up here.
Let's see what we've got. Rotten Tomatoes, Games Radar, plus Hakes. Looks promising.
Yeah, and we're going to unpack all the latest buzz about upcoming Disney movies.
Should we give folks a little heads up, like what kind of intel they're in for?
Perfect idea. Um, think sequels to some absolute giants? Moana Zootopia?
Oh, Toy Story and Frozen are back in the mix too, right?
You got it. And hey, hold on to your hats, folks, because there's a whole avalanche of live-action remakes on the way.
Sounds like Disney's got a pretty clear strategy going on, huh? Capitalizing on those familiar names.
Yeah, what's the deal with all these familiar faces popping up again?
Nostalgia's a powerful thing. I mean, those big franchises, they've already got huge built-in audiences.
Right.
Practically guarantees people will show up at
Makes
theaters.
sense. It's like a safe bet in a really competitive market.
Exactly. Plus, it's a pretty smart way to introduce these stories to a brand new generation, don't you think? Oh, totally. Like, kids who grew up with Moana are probably old enough to have kids of their own now.
Right. So it's a way to share those favorites, create a whole new wave of
So
fans.
it's not just rehashing the old stuff. It's about like weaving in new ideas, keeping things relevant.
Exactly. Breathe new life into them for today's audiences. Now, we can't talk about sequels without mentioning Moana. Moana 2 is going to be a Disney Plus series. But guess what?
They bumped it up to a full theatrical release. Bold move.
Super bold. What do you think made them go that route? Strong early footage, maybe? Or just the story's potential?
I mean, the first Moana was a smash hit, critically acclaimed, and like everyone loved it.
True, true. Plus, going theatrical,
Yeah,
bigger budget, bigger audience, a chance to really create that immersive cinematic experience.
makes sense. And speaking of exciting returns, both Moana 2 and Zootopia 2, they're bringing back the original voice actors.
Oh, that's awesome. Hearing those familiar voices adds so much. It's like reconnecting with old friends.
Right. And I've got to ask, Toy Story. I thought they wrapped things up pretty neatly. What's the story with Toy Story 5?
You know, Toy Story's always been about more than just toys. It's about growing up, facing change, the power of friendship. And this time, they're tackling the digital age.
Oh, wow, that's pretty relevant. Woody and Buzz navigating smartphones and virtual reality. That could be hilarious.
Right? They could even get into some deeper stuff, technology addiction, the blurring lines between the real and virtual. Lots of potential there.
Pixar always manages to blend those complex themes with humor and like genuine heart. It's what they do best.
And speaking of franchises that just keep going,
Yeah.
Frozen third.
Okay, spill the tea. What little hints have we managed to gather about this one?
Well, they showed some concept art at the D23 Expo. Apparently, it hinted at, like, the seeds of their next epic adventure.
Yeah,
So more to come in Arendelle, for sure.
that's not all right. There were whispers of a fourth Frozen film as well.
Yeah, word on the street is Disney's got big, long-term plans for this franchise. Maybe even a whole saga unfolding over multiple films.
Okay, that's a lot of Frozen. But hey, as long as the songs are catchy and the story's good, I'm there. But it does kind of feel like Disney's borrowing from the Marvel playbook here, don't you think? Creating those interconnected stories that span movies and TV shows.
It's smart, keeps audiences hooked, generates tons of hype. And speaking of hype, we got to talk live-action remakes.
Right, that's like the big elephant in the room. Or should I say the big mouse? What's your take on this whole trend? Cash grab or a chance to reimagine these classics?
I think it's a bit of both. Obviously, there's a financial incentive, but there's also a genuine desire to reintroduce these stories to new audiences, give them a fresh look.
So, honoring the past while bringing something new to the table.
Exactly. And some of these remakes are taking some really interesting risks.
Huh?
Take Snow White, for example.
Oh, yeah. What's going on with that one?
They cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White,
Hmm.
and Greta Gerwig, who's known for her really smart and often feminist stories, is involved in the script.
Wow, so we could be looking at a pretty modern, maybe even feminist take on the classic fairy tale. But honestly, some of these adaptations make me nervous. Like Lilo and Stitch. Stitch is so unique. How do you translate that to live action?
It's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. Capturing Stitch's personality in a live-action format will be tricky. Who knows? Maybe it'll even spark conversations about CGI and how we portray non-human characters.
That's a great point. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. What about The Lion King? Any news on that front?
Actually, there's a prequel in the works. Mufasa, the Lion King. But here's the twist. It's told from the perspective of Timon and Pumbaa.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I guess you got to give them credit for trying something different.
And then there's live-action Moana. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's coming back as Maui.
That's awesome. But what about Moana herself? Who's filling those big shoes?
They cast newcomer Katrin Lagaya. And to make sure there's a connection to the original, Alia Carvalho, the original voice of Moana, is on board as an executive producer.
That's great news. But let's be real, Moana is all about the music. Lin-Manuel Miranda's songs brought so much to the film. What are they doing about the music for the live-action version?
Well, they brought on the songwriting duo behind the unofficial Bridgerton musical, Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear, to create new music.
Wow, that's a bold choice. I mean, Miranda's music was so iconic. It'll be interesting to see how they blend their style with the spirit of Moana. High risk, high reward, I guess. Speaking of risks, what's happening behind the scenes? Any production drama we need to know about?
Well, Hollywood's never short on drama, is it? But right now, Disney's dealing with a pretty volatile industry landscape.
What's causing all the turbulence?
We're still seeing ripple effects from the COVID-19 pandemic. Plus, there are those recent strikes, the SAG-AFTRA and the WGA. The whole industry's pretty much at a standstill.
It's a reminder that there are real people behind these films facing real challenges. Hopefully things will settle down soon. But have those strikes impacted any of the Disney projects?
Definitely. Tron Heirs was canceled and then brought back to life. Blade's been hit with delays and director changes. It's a lot of uncertainty.
So even the big studios aren't immune to all this chaos.
Not at all. Filmmaking's a complex beast. And even when things seem to be running smoothly, something can throw a wrench in the works. Take Cruella 2. Emma Stone's still on board, but the schedule's been all over the place.
Okay, so patience is key when it comes to these upcoming releases. But enough about Disney animation. What about Pixar? What are they cooking up?
Well, one Pixar film that's generating buzz is Elio. Imagine a young boy who accidentally gets beamed up to space.
And then what?
He ends up becoming Earth's ambassador to, get this, an intergalactic organization. Classic Pixar blend of adventure, humor, heartwarming stuff.
Ah, that sounds adorable. Proof that Pixar's still all about original stories, even with all these sequels and prequels flying around.
And remember, Searchlight Pictures, always bringing something different to the table.
They're like the cool indie cousin in the Disney family. What have they got coming up?
They've got Poor Things, this sci-fi romantic comedy, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who did The Favorite and The Lobster.
I've heard good things about his work. What's Poor Things all about?
Okay, so it stars Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Mark Ruffalo. And the description is like a surrealist feminist fable. A young woman brought back to life by this eccentric scientist. It's going to be wild.
That sounds awesome. Disney's really showcasing a wide range of genres and styles these days, huh?
Totally. And it's not just big budget blockbusters. They've got some smaller projects in the works too.
Oh, like what?
Well, Taika Waititi's directing Next Goal Wins. True story about the American Samoa soccer team, known for its epic losing streak. Waititi brings his trademark humor and heart to the story, makes it inspiring and entertaining.
I love a good underdog story. And what about sequels to, like, slightly less famous movies?
Yeah, there's a sequel to the 2014 film Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day coming to Disney Plus now. Not many details yet, but it'll be fun to revisit that chaotic family.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And is The Return of the Rocketeer still happening? That was one of my faves growing up.
Yeah, still in development. The amazing David Oyelowo signed on as executive producer and the lead. Big win. He's an incredible actor. Definitely one to watch.
This is crazy. We could literally talk about upcoming Disney movies forever. We've barely scratched the surface.
There's Hoppers, the Pixar movie, where this girl can transfer her mind into a robot beaver. Then there's Ella McKay with Emma Mackey about a young politician. And don't forget Swiped, the biopic about the Bumble founder.
Oh, and Hold Your Breath. That psychological thriller with Sarah Paulson. So much good stuff on the horizon. Disney's really going all out, huh? Offering something for everyone.
Absolutely. But you know what's really fascinating to me? With the whole 20th Century Studios acquisition, they've got this massive library of classic films now.
You're so right. We've been so focused on what's coming up, we haven't even talked about those amazing films from the past.
It's like a whole other dimension to explore. What if we shift gears and dive into those classic 20th Century Studios films? See what hidden gems we can unearth.
I love that idea. It's like opening a cinematic time capsule. I'm in.
Awesome. Our next stop, a journey through the incredible history of 20th Century Studios.
Get ready, deep divers. Our adventure continues.
Welcome back, everybody. Get ready, because we're about to step back in time.
Ooh, a little time travel. I like it. So we're diving into the history of 20th Century Studios.
That's right. It's like walking into this giant movie museum.
Okay, I'm picturing it all those iconic films, from Star Wars to Avatar to Titanic.
Die Hard. I mean, those films haven't just entertained us, they've shaped how we see movies.
True. But where do we even start with a studio that's done SOMUCH?
Well, I think it's important to remember that 20th Century Studios isn't just about those huge blockbusters.
You're saying there's more to discover? Hidden gems, maybe?
Exactly. And that's what makes this so exciting. We're going to unearth those lesser-known films, share them with a whole new audience.
Ooh. Okay, you got to give me some examples. What kind of hidden gems are we talking about?
Okay, well, this one's a personal favorite.
Yeah.
The Sandlot. This coming-of-age story about a group of boys playing baseball, getting into all sorts of trouble.
Oh, The Sandlot. Such a classic. It totally captures that feeling of summer vacation as a kid.
It's heartwarming, timeless, and it shows how 20th Century Studios can make movies that are fun, but also hit you right in the feels.
Okay, so The Sandlot for sure. What else you got?
All right, how about a Robin Williams classic, Mrs. Doubtfire? Divorced dad disguises himself as a nanny to be closer to his kids.
Yes.
Hilarious, touching, and you get to see Robin Williams' amazing talent.
Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire. I used to watch that movie over and over again. The whole family loved it.
Right, and you know what else the whole family can enjoy? The Princess Bride. Fairy tales, sword fights, giants, true love.
Inconceivable. I mean, who doesn't love The Princess Bride? It's like the perfect blend of everything you could want in a movie.
It really shows how 20th Century Studios can make films that appeal to everyone, movies that last for generations.
I'm sensing a theme here. All these movies we're talking about, they have this real heart to them.
That's a great observation. I think you've nailed something important about 20th Century Studios. It's like, even when they're making movies about, like, aliens or time travel, there's always this human element, a real sense of connection.
Makes them feel relatable, even if the story's totally out there.
Okay, but 20th Century Studios doesn't just do heartwarming stories, right? What about those action flicks and thrillers?
Oh, absolutely. They're masters of, like, every genre. And speaking of thrillers, we have to mention Speed.
A bus that explodes if it goes below 50 miles per hour.
Yeah, I'd say that's a thriller.
It's pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
And it really launched Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock as action stars.
I saw it in theaters. Such a rush.
And it shows how 20th Century Studios can make movies that are super entertaining, but also technically brilliant. The stunts, the pacing, it all just works.
It's amazing how those action sequences can just, like, suck you right into the movie.
Right. Your heart's racing, you're holding your breath. Speed really nails that.
The more we dig into this 20th Century Studios library, the more I'm realizing just how much they've done.
It's incredible, right? And that's what makes this so cool. We're discovering these overlooked films and rediscovering classics, and it just keeps going. But with so many films, how do we even make sense of it all?
That's a good question. It's like we're looking at this giant puzzle. How do all the pieces fit together?
Well, what if we see this whole library as a way to trace how movies themselves have changed over time? We can see how filmmaking techniques evolved, how storytelling trends shifted, and how these films reflected the world around them.
That's a great point. So we're not just watching movies, we're kind of studying how movies themselves have evolved.
Exactly. It's like peeling back the layers of cinema history, seeing the influences and innovations.
Okay, so we're time travelers, A&D historians now. I like it.
Why not? We can see how special effects changed. From the practical effects in Star Wars to the mind-blowing CGI in Avatar. We can see how different genres developed, from musicals to crime dramas, all that.
Wow, it's like we're tracing this whole lineage of movies. But as we explore these films, shouldn't we also think about how they've impacted us? What kind of conversations did they start? What ideas did they challenge?
Absolutely. It's about actively engaging with these movies, not just passively watching them. What do they say about the world back then? And how do those messages hold up today?
I'm all for that. Thinking critically about the films we love, good and bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we should acknowledge that not every film from the past has aged well. Some might have outdated views or touch on sensitive topics that need to be discussed carefully.
True. We need to be mindful of that. It's not about blindly celebrating everything from the past. It's about engaging with it honestly.
Absolutely. Understanding its strengths and its flaws.
And maybe using those insights to help us tell better stories in the future.
Exactly. So as we go deeper into the 20th Century Studios catalog, let's highlight some films that really show off what this studio can do.
Okay, I'm ready for more cinematic highlights. What have we got?
First up, Alien. A sci-fi horror masterpiece that changed the game. Directed by Ridley Scott, it's both stunning to look at and absolutely terrifying. And you've got Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver. She's become such an icon, especially for women in sci-fi.
You know, I'm not the biggest horror fan, but even I can appreciate what Alien did for movies.
It's more than just a horror film. It's a cultural touchstone.
Hmm.
And then there's Die Hard, which basically invented the modern action movie.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Come on, who doesn't love that line?
Die Hard is just endlessly entertaining.
Yeah.
Action, humor, suspense. 20th Century Studios knows how to make crowd-pleasing movies that critics love too.
Okay, now for something totally different. Titanic, this historical epic that just swept everyone off their feet.
Such a powerful story and visually breathtaking. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet were amazing.
I saw it in theaters. I was completely mesmerized. It's one of those movies that stays with you forever.
It just shows the power of cinema to transport us. Make us feel these intense emotions and remind us of the power of human connection, even in the face of tragedy.
I'm noticing something about all these films. They've all had a huge impact on, like, pop culture in general.
Totally. They've inspired parodies, homages, references in other movies, TV shows, even music.
It's like they've become part of our collective memory, you know? These iconic characters, lines, images, they're everywhere.
That's the magic of great storytelling. It connects with us on this deep level and stays with us.
So we've seen how 20th Century Studios has shaped cinema, right?
Yeah.
But now that it's part of Disney, what does the future hold for these classic films? Will they just sit in a vault somewhere? Or will Disney find ways to bring them back to life for a new generation?
That's the big question, isn't it? With streaming services and this constant demand for content, Disney's got this amazing opportunity.
Like new sequels, prequels, maybe even spin-off series, remastering those classics with the latest technology.
Exactly. The possibilities are huge. And remember, these films aren't just entertainment. They're pieces of our cultural history.
We need to preserve them, share them, like passing down a family heirloom, so they can keep inspiring and entertaining people for years to come.
Well said. Ready to head back to the present. See what Disney's cooking up for the future.
Absolutely. Let's see how they blend that classic Disney magic with cutting-edge ideas. Welcome back, deep divers. Time to jump back to the present. We've explored the past, that incredible 20th Century Studios library, and now it's all about what's coming next from Disney.
It's a wild mix, right?
Yeah.
Tapping into that nostalgia, but also pushing boundaries, trying new things.
Exactly. But with all this talk about sequels and remakes, I gotta ask, is there anything truly new W coming from Disney? Any original stories that aren't tied to existing franchises? I'm all about those fresh perspectives, you know?
Great question. And honestly, yeah, Disney's still investing in original stories, showcasing fresh voices and ideas.
Okay, I'm listening. Hit me with some examples. Prove to me originality isn't dead in Hollywood.
All right, how about Next Goal Wins? Directed by Taika Waititi, the guy behind Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that one. It's a true story, right? Something about a soccer team.
Yep, it's about the American Samoa soccer team, infamous for their losing streak.
So the ultimate underdog story. I love it.
It is. And Waititi brings his signature humor to it, but it's also a story about perseverance, hope, believing in yourself even when things are tough.
Man, I love those kinds of stories. Real life inspiration, that's the good stuff. What else have you got?
Let's head over to Searchlight Pictures. They're known for their more thought-provoking films, and they've got Poor Things coming out.
That title definitely grabs your attention. What's it all about?
It's billed as a sci-fi romantic comedy, but there's a twist. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who did The Favorite and The Lobster. He's known for his pretty unique, visually stunning style.
Yeah, I've heard his films are both beautiful and kind of strange. In a good way, I hope.
Definitely in a good way. Poor Things stars Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Mark Ruffalo. And get this, it's described as a surrealist feminist fable about a young woman brought back to life by this, eccentric scientist.
Wow, okay, that's definitely not your typical Disney movie.
Yeah.
I love that they're willing to take those risks, you know, supporting filmmakers with bold visions.
It shows how they're expanding their horizons, right?
Yeah.
They're not just about family entertainment anymore. They're exploring all these different genres and themes.
Exactly. Disney doesn't always mean predictable and safe. They can surprise you. Okay, you've officially convinced me. There's still hope for originality in Hollywood.
Glad to hear it. It's those fresh stories that keep things interesting, challenge us to think differently. They're a reminder that human creativity is limitless.
Couldn't agree more. So listeners, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Disney movies, we leave you with this thought. Hold on to those familiar favorites, cherish the classics, but always, Always be open to new stories, the future of cinema. Who knows what amazing films are waiting to be discovered? Keep exploring, keep watching, and most importantly, keep that Disney magic alive.